Welcome, welcome everyone to another rendition of OTECH Pros held every Saturday at 11 a.m. Today, we are pleased to offer you an exciting topic. The topic today is testing the final rollout. How did we come up with this topic? Ash Mufara has suggested topics to us, and we are most willing to cover these very, very important topics. So today we have our OTECH Pros. For all four of them are here, and our regular contributor, Marty DeGarmo. We're going to now begin with Collins Mana. He's going to give us an overview of testing and the testing process. Go ahead, Collins.
Yeah, so thank you, Lynn. I just want to greet my brother, all my brothers here, Marty DeGarmo, Bob Takusi, Vincent Ete, Oliver. Yeah, so we are here again for another edition of testing and why testing. So we did it yesterday, and today is just a continuation of the topic we had yesterday. So it's about testing and data migration. You know, our CEO has been talking about that every time that we are in testing. Every time we say, oh, when they test, and then we have to do this. When they test, we have to roll out. So we want to look just that particular part because maybe we want to bring to the understanding of the founders and those who are watching. Why do we have to test? Is testing necessary? Why don't we just roll out and say, okay, take it out to the market? Why is it so important? Why is this particular area so important? So what is testing? Testing is about ensuring that the software meet user expectation, meet and exceed. So because if you build a software, especially like what we have now in ONPASSIVE, if it doesn't meet the customer expectation, nobody will come for our software. If it doesn't exceed, you know, it will not still bring people because say, why do I have to change from A to B? There must be something that must attract the customers to come in. And that is, you want to exceed their expectation to give them that X factor, something that they've never seen before. So that's why we test. We test to ensure, you know, that the software that we have built meet and exceed customer expectations. So I will share a simple flow diagram and we can go through the testing life cycle. So let me share my screen and let's look at it. So can you see my screen? Lynn, just thumb up. So the topic is testing and data migration. So we'll look at why do we test? Why should we test? So we test to gain customer confidence. You know, you want to test because you want to build the confidence to all the customers that will be coming in to participate in your products and services. You want to build that confidence. So you must test the product. And again, to check software adaptability, you know, how the software can be adaptable to each environment and also compatibility. You need to, you want to identify errors before you roll out. You know, that's why you test, to really find out if there are errors in your software, to avoid extra costs. Because if you don't test, there's always extra costs. And a lot of people don't really understand the cost. It's about loss of lives, you know, lawsuit will come, you know, the jobs, you know, there are a lot of things. The company can even shut down because there are companies that have come and then because they didn't test good, they didn't really have proper testing. What happened? They shut down and people lost their jobs. A lot of things happen. Money, you have to pay back all those who've paid for you to build the software. To accelerate software development, yes, the more you test, the more you accelerate because they can easily find issues, resolve it, and then move on. And then to avoid risks, again, we know the type of risks that can happen, you know, and then to optimize business, what happened? The revenue will come in. The more you test, people gain confidence, the more money you get because people will come and buy and say, yes, we have confidence in this. I've bought this thing and there is no issue. So I love it and I want to come and pay again more. And that's how the company makes money. So now let's look at the type of testing. So there are two categories of testing. You have functional and you have non-functional testing. So let's look at functional. Within functional, we know we talk about beta and alpha. We've been talking about beta and alpha testing. So beta testing is always the last. So functional is about ensuring that all the functions that you have built meet they require specification. So what they have specified, have you built it right? It's about verifying that things that you are doing meet the criteria that you set before you start to develop the software. And the non-functional part of it is something that is not really related to the functionality. Because for instance, functional is a login screen, let me click on the login, let me enter input as your login credentials, click submit button. Those are the functions. You go to the mailing system, click, can I receive my email? Can I send email? Those are functions. Then now the non-functional part is the number of people, because sometimes when you build it, you cannot estimate those who will come and use it. Can your software handle billions of customers coming in? That is the non-functional part. Can your software withstand stress? Can your software perform the way it should perform? It will not slow down and crash. All of those things, they are the non-functional part of it. Is it light? Portability? Can you put it in a USB and put it in your pocket? That's the non-functional part. So those are the non-functional part. You have to test all of these things to ensure that the software meets those criteria, then you set off. Now, within the functional part of it, there are various methods of testing. When you build a software, you have testing the functionality, the major function. When you test it, you call it functional testing. Then what happens if there's an issue, you fix it, you fix that issue, then you have to retest. They call it retesting. And when you retest, what happens? You have to perform a type of test called regression. So for instance, you fix it and you bring it back, you implement it. What happens, for instance, take for instance our old mail. You have the calendar and the calendar is broken. Or you have the contact menu is broken. You go and you fix it. What do you need to do? When you fix it, you test it. You say, okay, yes, the calendar now is not working. You have to retest what? The contact list. You have to try if you can send email again, because sometimes you fix something, you bring it, that thing can break the other functions. You have to retest everything again. They call it regression. You have to check that, verify that your software, other existing functions was working okay, and have not been broken down because of the new things you've added. That's what is called regression test. After that, you have other type of test again. You have like integration, because all our components, remember all our applications, they interact with each other, OMail, ODECH, all of those. You need to test all those integration, because you can integrate something, it breaks something again somewhere. So you have to check if ODECH is working as it should. You have to check OTracker, OStaff, all of those integrated products. You have to check all of that. So now that is integration testing. You have even unit testing, because unit testing is conducted by the developers. Before they build a code, they have to do a certain check. You have smoke tests. When you deploy, you have to make sure all the high-level testing products, functions are still working okay. Now let's look at the agile test life cycle. You have the features. You have to understand the feature, what you want to test. You understand it. Then you have to write a test case. You have to develop a test case. A test case is about an input value and an expected result. So when you input something, there must be a precondition. For instance, if I input my name, Collins Manor, the precondition is Collins Manor really existing in the database? That's the precondition. You must ensure that I have created Collins Manor and it is existing in the database. That's the precondition. Then I can validate it now with my case, that when I enter Collins Manor, what I'm expecting, the login screen will display, because Collins Manor has been validated in that database and said, yes, this person exists in the database. Once I enter Collins Manor, whatever my email is, and I enter my password, once I click submit button, what will happen? The screen will display, because I've already created an account which exists in the database. So that is the precondition. So it's an input value and expected result. That is a test case. Now, from there, you have to execute the test. Execute the test, and then you release the products. Any defect, you fix it. So it goes round this cycle, and you test every time. That's how you go round and round and round, and you test. Now, the same thing with this software life cycle is the same. You plan, you understand the requirement, you plan your test, you create your test case, which I've just explained, which is input value and expected result. You prepare your test environment, and then you execute the test. And then you close if everything is. So you must ensure that you have 95 and above defect-free. Then that's where you say, yes, I have confidence in this software. And there are also different ways of testing. You have automated and manual testing. You also have behavioral and test. So you write, like TDD, which is test-driven development. Some company go by test-driven. So you write the test, then you build the software. Some other company go by the behavioral. You build and then you test the behavior, how the software will behave in real time. And that is how you go on and on. So it's a cycle of process to ensure that things work accordingly. Then you have that confidence to say, yes, I can go out with this. So I will leave it there and I'll hand it back to Auntie Lynn to take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Collins, for an excellent and brief overview of testing. Next, we have Oliver Fonte, and he's going to be speaking about the importance of security testing. Go ahead, Oliver.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy to be here, and I want to thank Collins for the brief overview, and my brother Bob, also Vincent, Lynn, hi, and Maddie, the big bro, and the father of the house. Yeah, I'm talking about security in testing. This is very, very important because after all the other components, the requirements that they've put them together from the coding, the database, you know, we have to do security checks to make sure that we cannot roll them out or they move to the next stage without perform security testing and security check. Because with that being done, we are in a very dangerous position. But before we start, I also want us to understand that security testing starts from the day one of the planning. You have to start from day one to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage. That is the process. Because we cannot jump from, without doing security, you don't want to go back to the last phase to perform our security check or security testing. No, we start from day one, because if we do, we don't know what has happened in the first phase, the second phase, the third phase, the fourth, or the fifth. So we have to make sure that from the day one, before they even start writing the code, they have to come with a plan. Where are they going to fit in security testing? Why are they going to? So we have to check everything. My brother Bob will go into all that in security audit. Now, what is security testing? It's a type of software testing that uncovers vulnerability, threat, risk in a software application and prevent malicious attack from intruders. Then the purpose of security testing is to identify all purpose, loopholes, and weaknesses of the software system, which might result in a loss of information. So we have to make sure that security testing, as we've just heard, to prevent from malicious attacks. Now, why do we perform security tests? Security testing is to identify the threat in the system and measure its potential vulnerabilities so the threat can be encountered and the system does not stop functioning. Because if there's a threat, then the system will stop. The system will stop. So that is why, like I said, we have to start security check from the phase one, or the planning of that will start that process. We have to identify how we have to perform that security check. And when we perform that security, when we perform that security check, we also have to make sure that the security check comes with various types of security testing. One, which is the vulnerability scanning. Very important. They have to perform vulnerability scanning to make sure that there's no threat, no vulnerability on phase one before they move to phase two. So they have to go through all these checks, all this security testing. The second one is security scanning. It involves to identify network and system weaknesses and later prevent solution for reducing the risk. And the scanning can be performed in two different ways that will come to it. We've already automated and manual. The automated is the one that I just talked about, the vulnerability scanning. That is the automated scanning. Now the manual one that drop now is the penetration testing that my brother Connie just talked about also a few minutes ago. Penetration scanning is very, very important. But since we also have AI, I'll explain that as we are going along about how AI is more important now in penetration testing. But me, as an IT person, I would prefer manual one, though it takes a lot of time. It takes time. AI comes now to automate the whole process. Now that AI has come, most of them, they're going into AI pen test, and it reduces time. But I, for one, I would prefer manual pen test, because a manual pen test, you have that urge, you have that control that you hack the system. You protect, you hack, you protect from network to application, from the network and the application, you hack, you protect. So that gives us the urge. Like Collins, my brother, said yesterday, that when the CEO, Mr. Ashmofa, comes and said, you cannot break our system, because he has that confidence. He has that confidence that they've done all the security check, they've done all the testing, security testing, everything is ongoing, and we are perfect to go. That is why you see the CEO all come again and say, you cannot break our system. You can't break our system. I'll leave the security assessment and security audit for my brother Bob to come in. And then let me talk about a little bit about the security posture testing also. After we've gone through all the checks, the security testing, we've gone through all the process, we have to come now for the security, the security posture, the overall security posture. One more time, the phase one with the security testing, penetration test, bam, check. What are the components that they need? They look at it, check. We'll go now to vulnerability scan, we check. What are the requirements that we need to check? We check. Testing, perfect. Then after that, before we can now say, okay, our security check is done, phase one. Now we'll move to phase two. That's when all those sprints are coming in between. That it might happen in spring one, or it happen in spring two, which is 2 weeks. So then now come the AI. Since we have artificial intelligence with us, which is a big thing, an advantage for ONPASSIVE than any other company out there. They'll have AI that manage that or goes through all our process and in our system. AI enables testing, does not consume much time. Like I said before, it reduces that too much time for like pen test that we want to carry on pen test manually. It take off that time that an employee can use that time to do some other thing, carry on another task. So it reduces, AI now help us to reduce that process. The AI machine learning algorithms also incorporate new vulnerability discovery, that continuous improvement and expanding threat detection capability. With AI, now that we use AI, is going to lesser time. It has that detection capability that can dictate easily. It can dictate easily if there's any, because AI will do that rapid security check from everything. But I for one, I would prefer that manual one. For me, that's me. But a lot of companies will do that. It's not that I don't trust AI. I trust AI because the algorithms, and also the AI and machine learning algorithms, they keep perfecting themselves every day, every year, every month. That in the future, we will not need manual anymore. But from the start, I would prefer the manual one, so that as the AI algorithms are perfecting themselves, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, that we are sure now that those algorithms now they are strong enough, they are perfect enough to carry on all the security testing. Then before we can surrender. But for one, me, I would prefer manual tests. Maybe I'm old school in IT security. So, and I want to make us to understand that when the CEO comes and talk to us, we don't get it. All these products go through this process. That is why it takes that long. And for us to take less than 4 years to come out with the amount of finished products that are ready to go to the market, for me, we should give kudos to our tech guys in Hyderabad and to our CEO, because they've done something that is incredible. Because if we look at another product out there that they took more than 4 years, our big bro said something yesterday with a lady in Canada about testing. Things crash. Just imagine, I discussed it with Collins the other day. that just imagine that they manufacture a plane that they didn't go through all this testing, this testing process, this testing phases, and they just send it out. Passenger get into that plane and it crashes. You can imagine what is going to happen. Take for example that you go to a grocery store. You go to a grocery store, the self-service is AI for you to self-check and pay. The machine, they didn't test it. People come, you come and get grocery, that costs about $90. You pay $30. You cheat the store because they didn't go through all these phases, this security check testing and the normal testing phases. So testing is a very, very huge and important phase in IT, especially when company like ONPASSIVE that is going to be the biggest on this planet. We have to make sure that our due diligence is being performed accurately and perfectly. So I will leave it there and I give it back to Anteline. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for that great presentation. Now we move on to Vincent. Okay. And Vincent is going to be talking about data migration. Go ahead, Vincent.
Thank you, Anteline. Thank you, Brother Collins, for this great presentation. Thank you also, Brother Oliver, for the great presentation. So hello to all the participants everywhere you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So this is ONPASSIVE. We need to win it. So today I'll talk about the data migration, and then my brother Collins talk about the testing. Oliver talk about security. I'll talk about the data migration. So first of all, before to start talking about the data migration, I need to start from a question that what is a data migration? So the data migration is a process of migrating data from one system to another. This is known as a data migration. So many people may think that data migration is the easy thing to do, just tick and push it there. No, it requires change to the storage. It requires also as well as a change to the database and also in the application. So we have several types of data migration. And then in the data migration, we have storage migration. We have a database migration. We have application migration. We have a cloud migration because you can do a migration from cloud to another cloud. We can do also business process migration and data center migration. So the data center migration, like this week, I know a lot of people hear about our migration, and our CEO said we'll do a migration from AWS to our own data center. So this is in one term, a data center migration. So what is a data center? So a data center is where business keep to the critical application and data. And the data center also is a real world location. It's not in a virtual one because it's like physical location where all the IT equipment refer to equipment or other IT technology in a room. So that's what they call it, a data center. So the migration of our system. So before we start the migration, we have several steps we're going through before to start the migration. The first step of this is to identify the data format, the location, and the sensitivity. So before you begin the data migration process, you need first of all to identify data you are migrating, what format is currently in, where it lives, and what format it should be in the post-migration. So during the pre-planning process, you may potential risk like something you need to plan prior to move the data. So you have to make sure that you know all the risk, everything before you start the planning, because if you don't know, you don't plan the potential risk, and then you start the process, then you face the risk, you cannot fix the risk. So you need to realize what you need to do, even the security measures, you need to put everything in place before you start the planning. So the pre-planning process, you can save you making critical error during the actual migration plan. So we move into second stage of planning, is like planning for the size and the scope of the project. So once you understand the data being moved, define the scope of the data migration plan. So plan out also the resources you need during the migration and put also a realistic budget in place. So this is how you need to plan planning, the size, and the project. So also you need to conduct an advanced analysis for both SUS and the target debt system and write a flexible time frame from the project. So make sure that you understand the project, and then you can do that. And then before you start out maybe the process of the planning, be sure to communicate to the key stakeholders and the time frame and the potential downtime. So the stakeholders, they need to know exactly what the potential risk will happen when you do the migration, and also the time frame you need it for the project. And also the final thing they need to know the potential downtime, if there's any possibility of downtime. So all the stakeholders, they should be aware, and then the communication should go out to them as well. And then before to kick off the project, we need to do a backup of all the data. So the reason why we need a backup, the backup will allow us to, if we have anything like as corrupt or incomplete or missing file, we can use the backup to correct if we finish the process and anything goes wrong, we can use the backup to put this system back to the original state where it used to be. So nowadays, migration, a lot of companies use the cloud backup. Is the safest and the most secure backup method we're using in the industry now. So now, and then the next step, we need to access the staff and also the migration tools. So we need to access the staff skills. If the staff, we have the requirement, they have an ability to conduct the product, and also we have a migration tool. We have several migration tools. All migration tools, we have to assess which one it will be best to do our migration. So this is something also we need to do that, the framework, the time framework design, and also to make sure that it can help us to accomplish the project. So this is also one step, and also make sure that the flexibility that it can meet the requirement we need to accomplish the migration. So after that, we'll move to the execution of the data migration plan. So before we start the data migration plan, we need to also to make sure that the right system permission apply to allow for successful data migration, because if for people that don't have the right permission, the execution migration can fail. So make sure that the right people have the right security, and then from the target to the switch system. So this is how we can kick off the plan. So when the migration plan is executed, we'll always have a two result. We can have a fail migration. So when it's failed, what we need to do, we can roll back the system back to where it used to be. So if we have a successful migration, and then we have to start also the testing of final system. So the testing of the final system, we need to, after the completion and then the successful of the migration, we start the testing of the switch with the switch and also with the target system. We want to make sure that everything is work, the connectivity problems. If also we have get our goal, because we need a goal, the goal why we did the migration. So we need to check if we have the goal, and then also to make sure that everything is correct. We have a secure and also is in a proper location. So once we done all this, we're back to verification of the testing, conduct, unit testing, system testing, volume testing, web-based application testing, and also we have a batch application testing. So that will come into my brother Colin's area, where they will go to the testing and make sure that all the volume testing, unit testing is done properly. And then when they are satisfied, we know that 100% that everything is done. We have a final migration plan executed successfully. And then the final step, we need to follow up and the maintenance of the data migration plan. So the maintenance, we have to make sure that we did also some maintenance tests. If we have any issues, make sure that we follow up the maintenance of the system in place. Make sure that we also maintenance system is done as appropriate. And then we do also, if we do after the checking of everything, that something is not working, or maybe we have a file incorrect data file or anything, we still can use our backup to restore the system and make sure that we have the recover the important data for your business, where your business rely on. So this is a simple way how we can do the data migration plan. So I will leave it there for Antolin now. You are mute.
Thank you, Vincent, for the presentation on data migration. You know, we can see it is a multifaceted process and very, very involved, complex. Thank you so much. Next, we have Bob Takusi, who will be discussing compliance and security audit.
All right, Antolin, good morning. Greetings from Bel Air, Maryland. Greetings to my brothers, Oliver, Vincent, and Collins, and of course, Brother Madi. Greetings to all our viewers worldwide. It's good to be here. It's a beautiful Saturday day. I think by now it is very, very obvious that for those of us who are clued in, who are following up, who know exactly what is going on behind the scenes and the front scenes about ONPASSIVE, it is obvious that ONPASSIVE is going to be the biggest and the greatest IT company that ever existed. It is very obvious. We are in over 200 countries right now. We are building multiple applications to serve our customers worldwide. We are going to be providing our services as well as receiving payments from our customers worldwide. And you know, in all these countries, they all have their own rules and regulations, their own compliance laws. So it is very, very paramount of us also to make sure as we build our systems, we are in compliance with the rules and regulations of all these countries. We know that our founder told us about a year ago that believe we have about 2 of the toppest law firms in the United States that are in the area of intellectual property and compliance. I believe rightfully so that there's one of these law firms here in Washington, D.C. area where I am, and there's another one in New York. And also in India, one of the best law firm, I believe the best law firm in India is also representing us. And we have several lawyers around the world, affiliates, who are going out there in these various countries, making sure, doing their due diligence, like Oliver said, doing their due diligence to make sure we are in compliance with the laws of this country, and feeding it back to the tech team, of course, to make sure, hey, we have this feature, we have this security-wise to protect, because one key thing nowadays, everything is online, everybody's going online. Privacy is a very, very important aspect. So most companies are passing laws and regulations so that their privacy information is protected. You know, so compliance is the key. Compliance is very, very important for every company right now that's online. You know, as we get online and as ONPASSIVE is coming online, we also face the issues that some of these companies face. There are a lot of illegal activities that go online that could actually cause reputational harm to us and to all these companies. There is money laundering, massive money. ONPASSIVE is providing a platform for the entire world for people to come together, you know. So there's going to be people who want to take advantage and do money laundering, cybercrime, you know, a lot of criminal activity goes on online. Remember that we are providing a total internet solution. So anybody who does anything online will have a need to come to ONPASSIVE. Hence, cybercrime, people are going to also want to use it for other illegal activities like cybercrime. Corruption is one. And that's why our CEO always says we are the we are the correction to the corruption, you know, and trafficking, human trafficking and things like that. So those are some of the illegal activities that, you know, are out there that could cause us harm. But our founder, as good as he is, he has actually told us, we know that our system is being built inside our infrastructure. We have anti-money laundering. So, and then with the addition of artificial intelligence, as my brother Oliver always brings to our consciousness, AI is there. You know, AI is there, is that security guard, that security that never goes to sleep. You know, human security, we might get tired, security might get tired and fall asleep and stuff like that. But the AI, the artificial intelligence, is constantly up and about, making sure we root out all this criminal behavior, criminal activity that's out there. So we have anti-money laundering that's in our system. So as we are building our system, as we are moving from each product phase rollout to another, we are also testing to make sure that these compliance regulations are in place as we move from one step to another. As we change versions of our application software, we are also testing for that capacity. We are also collecting payments from all over the world in different sources, different kinds of credit card payments and stuff like that. We'll be collecting those payments. So we have to also comply, make sure that our system has the ability to secure this personally identifiable information, credit card data. You know, we know that our database is encrypted totally. So we are also going to be, as we do our testing in each phase, we are testing to make sure that that database where this data is kept is secure, is safe, it's not hackable. We have there's a compliance regulation called Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. It is a group of credit card, large merchants, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all these big banks, they came together a few years ago, I think around 2006 or so. They formed what we call the PCI Council, where they outline certain security controls that must be in place for any system that is collecting credit card information. So we are going to test our system to make sure we are in compliance of that as we are doing our testing. And typically, once you have that compliance in place, there's an attestation of compliance that is given. So we can always show that, hey, we have this to give our customer confidence, you know. Those who are using our system, remember, we talked about digital trust a while ago, to give our customers the confidence that, hey, your data is with us. We have it here encrypted. We are adhering to all the security standards and controls that are regulated, that are out there. So we test for that too. There's also another, framework compliance-wise that we can also factor in here, which is called a SOC report, a service organization control. It's another way that companies, you know, show that they have digital trust. They would typically call a third party, one of the big four accounting firms, like maybe KPMG or PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young. You know, these companies, these are auditors. They come in and they X-ray the system. And then they give us a service, a SOC report. And there's SOC 1, type 1, type 2, type 3. Typically, a type 2 report is going to show the actual, you know, technical controls that are in there. So when we have that, we also guarantee that our security is in place. So as we are testing our systems in each version, we want to make sure that those tests that are typically performed by outside auditors, we retest and test to make sure that we are in compliance in that way. We have, our systems are going to be used by hospitals, by doctors, dentists, you know, that collect patient information. I can see OSTAF being used in all hospitals around the world, you know. We have, there's a regulation, I think here in North America, I'm sure around the world, there are other healthcare regulations. We have something that they call HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You know, it has two titles. The second title pertains to protective health information, to protect the health information of patients. So we are building our system mindful of that fact too. So as we are testing and making sure that our system is in compliance, we are testing to make sure that we are also protecting the health information of customers, the customers that are going to use our system. And then, of course, privacy laws. Our privacy in Europe, I always say this all the time. My brothers here, Collins and Vincent, they are in Europe. There's a law, there's a privacy regulation called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, all over Europe. In Europe, actually, even the email address of Vincent is considered personal data. So when you are building a system that collects Vincent's email address per this law, there are certain about 12 security controls that must be in place. Even if you are outside like us, ONPASSIVE is not in Europe, but if you are collecting European citizens' information, you have that system has to be protected. So we test for that. We test to make sure that the customers in Europe, France, Switzerland, everywhere around Europe, their data is protected. We test for that. In North America, we have something called CCPA, California Consumer Protection Act. It's similar. In New York, Canada, you know, so all these countries, they have their own privacy laws. So as we are testing, we are making sure, you know, we meet these requirements so that when auditors come or anything happens, we are safe. There are fines. I mean, I think Facebook, Melon Bank, and some other major corporations have actually been charged through GDPR for violating these laws. You know, so there are stiff penalties for those who violate this law. So as we are building our system, I want you to understand that as we are building our system, we are doing our testing, we are making sure that we meet this compliance regulation. In terms of security audit, security audit is a very broad field. I'm a security analyst. It's a very broad field. It's a very broad field for us to discuss here, but I will limit the scope to this particular discussion just to the development activities for our products, you know. So remember, we have started with Brother Collins. He gave us a brief overview of it. Oliver talked about security. Vincent talked about the migration and stuff. The process, the policy is there, okay? They are going to be doing the things as they go along, as they do the testing. That's the policy of the company. Now we come to audit to make sure this policy is actually being followed, you see? So, for instance, we will do what we call, we'll do a risk assessment. Each time we have to check to make sure as we move from one sprint to another, for instance, the system is the same. The system security, the checks that they made, they really actually did the check. So we for instance, did they do the static and the dynamic, what we call static and dynamic analysis? Did they really, these developers, did they actually check the code? Did they do their code reviews before they roll out? You know what I'm saying? Did they do those code reviews? Did they do the vulnerability, the dynamic analysis? Did they actually run their vulnerability scan? When they build the code, did they run it to check for any flaws or any flaws that they could fix? So this risk assessment that we conduct takes us in depth into looking to make sure that the steps, the policy in building this system or this software is being followed, is being adhered to. We also do an audit on the access. Access is very key. Brother Vincent is here, he's a database analyst. Access to this code. We have to make sure that the person who have the access, who is making the changes to this code, is the rightful owner of that component of that code. So we check to make sure that the access control policy is intact for the person who is checking out the code and fixing it and then checking it back in and what the process is. We talked about vulnerability scanning. Oliver talked about vulnerability scanning and penetration testing. That is constantly being done. It's from the beginning, as he said. But we do an audit to make sure what the results of this vulnerability scanning or penetration test, what do we do with it? Is it rated? When you scan and you get the results, that you get these issues, do you rate it to low, medium, high, defects? What do you do with it? Do you fix it? What is the turnaround time? Do you fix it before the next sprint? So we make sure we get all these facts together and we give a report so that that's how we optimize and make sure this system is ready to go to the market. So all the issues that are found, they are actually being taken care of as the process moves along. And then, of course, remember that SSS, we are secure, we are sophisticated, we are, you know, we are, what's the first one? The first one is, I forgot, it just senior moment, but
Superior,
we
sophisticated.
are superior.
Yeah.
We are superior SSS. I came up with that and I forgot. Okay. So remember, we are integrated. ONPASSIVE is building several products and then integrate them. So we also look at that, the integration part of it. We test to make sure that deployment integration code, each time, make sure that is it automated. We ask questions like, is it automated? How is it done? Just to make sure that everything, every part of the system component is inside that integration code that is being deployed. So we audit that to see what is being done, and then of course, there's something that we call change management, verify to make sure that the process is documented and is defined clearly. Make sure that the process for them to move from one sprint to another is clearly defined, clearly documented, and it is tested along the way. The process is being tested and refined, making sure that it is right. Every time that we go out and we deploy the final code, it is the correct code and done the right way, process-wise. So with that, Antilene, I'm going to send it back to you. Thank you.
That was awesome. Brief, but very, very informative. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. At this time, we're going to have Marty DeGarmo take the floor, and he's going to talk about real life examples of what happens when proper testing is not done. Dire consequences. Take the floor, Marty DeGarmo.
Okay, thank you very much. As the gentlemen were explaining, testing, being ready, and preparation. And it's very important. And in the history of, especially online, there's been examples of companies that didn't test well enough and were not prepared for either the load of traffic or the load of sales or whatever. And I want to give you some examples and what an impact it had on these companies. And you know some of these companies. For example, you have to know what the customer's expecting and what they want. Yahoo, for example, it was the third largest email provider in the world at one time. Now it's ninth. Now, you don't get moved down because always somebody's better. Sometimes it's because you did something that was damaging to your company. For example, Yahoo had a change of CEO and management, and they thought, well, let's change the design. There was no information that told them that they should change the design, but they took it on themselves. They changed the design, and it really hurt the company because along with the design came some functions that people said, why are you fixing something that's not broken? And it really, really impacted them. Another one, if you look back about 7 years ago, a game came out called Pokemon Go. Crazy game, right? So everybody got involved. Well, here's what happened. Because of people talking about it on social media, it went viral. And because the company wasn't ready, the spike in user demand failed. So when the spike went up, the company website couldn't handle it. It was showing so much momentum. And remember, if you catch the momentum and you can handle what's coming, it's a big impact on how much money and revenue and standing you get in the community, especially on games. People don't want to hear, we had an overload, we couldn't handle it. And that is what happened with Pokemon. Another one, 2016, the big election. The Canadian immigration website portal was flooded with visitors. Flooded. It crashed. Not once, repeatedly, over and over and over, because of the sudden interest in what that website had to offer. But the problem was it couldn't handle the influx. And then when they adjusted, and this all has to do with preparation, training, and being prepared for what's coming. And they were not prepared. It was a killer. Kardashians, whether you like them or you're not, Kim Kardashian came out they were going to come out with a Kimoji instead of an emoji, all right? Something crazy. It was $1.99. Because of it went viral. They went on social media. Here it comes. It went through and it was an app. Okay. Fans were downloading the app at a rate of 9,000 per millisecond. 9,000 downloads in a millisecond. It crashed, and the crash affected not only the download of the Kardashian product, but other users on Apple in the Apple Store. So it didn't just hurt the download, which wasn't probably as big a deal, but it hurt customers throughout Apple when they were in the store. Big money, money that'll never be made up. Yes, they're doing okay, they're $1 trillion company. But when stuff like this happens, it all has to do, were you prepared? And the answer is no. I'm pretty darn sure that some of the tech guys and some of the people involved no longer work at Apple or whoever had to do with the preparation of getting ready for this emoji or Kimoji. Another one, we all know this. Every year after Black Friday, they do an analysis of how well the shopping was for the year because it's the biggest day of the year, Black Friday. Who do they go by? One of the biggest department stores in the United States, if not the world, Macy's. In 2016, they had unbelievable traffic. The mobile app crashed under the heavy load. Okay, now that's people. Now, the fallout from the website crash was massive. Shoppers couldn't shop. They couldn't complete their purchase orders. The sales, and the problem with this was, because it was Black Friday, the sales that were involved were limited. They were time-based. So the site's crashing, and the more it failed, the more people got in because they're saying, I'm going to run out of time. I'm not going to get this sale. Needless to say, it hurt the brand, it hurt the company, and now the people think, I'm not going on there again, right? No kidding, it's a killer. Another prime example, back in 2010, when the iPhone 4 came out, which is a dinosaur right now, but at the time, it was state of the art. Everybody wanted one. I know it's hard to remember back that far, 12 years, but everyone wanted one, okay? The whole pre-order system from the Apple Store itself crashed. The new phone-based order taker, which is a separate through AT&T, crashed. The 1-800 number that they ran into major technical problems. Okay, when you look at stuff like that and crashing and falling and burning and whatever, it all has to do with preparation, testing, and being ready for the big show. You don't get a second chance at a debut of a product, a website, or anything to do with online. The things that these gentlemen were talking about all have to do with, are you ready for the big show? Are you ready for that day? And thank God, Mr. Mufar and his tech team, no matter how much pressure they get, oh, we need to do this, we need to get going, No. You know why? Because he knows about these things. He knows, he's been through some of them. I have. And it's a horrible feeling that you get there and it crashes, you're going, oh my God, because it's not a quick fix in most cases. Because you weren't prepared, it happens over and over and over, like it did with some of the apps where they went on again, it happened again. And here's a real bad one for the government of the United States. Back when they passed Obamacare, okay, there was a big website failure, right? One of the biggest in decades. Healthcare.gov crashed. Now, it needed to work for millions of people who have access to health insurance. This was a big deal. Unfortunately, the site had a huge number of problems. Damage in the public faith in the government, which wasn't that great to begin with, services, and caused lots of frustrations on the front end, which the customer sees, and on the back end, where the developers created to make this site manage insurance as an easy sign up. It wasn't an easy sign up. People would get halfway through and boom, the screen would go dead. Eventually the issues were fixed. The site now works, but guess what? what was the political cost? It was massive. It was massive. I just wanted to give some examples, but there's many examples like that throughout all of the websites. And like I said, 15 years I've been online. I've been through maybe 30 actual launches. Nothing compared to this. A tenth of this. And I would say over 90% failed for one reason or the other. Either pay or the wrong pay, or they just absolutely crashed. They couldn't handle the load. So we're in good hands. If it takes a little longer, pray that it does, because you'd rather not have the issues I just said. That's all I have.
Very, very good examples. And again, as you said, once the damage is done, how can you undo it? Not only the technical damage, but the economic damages to these companies and to customers and to the world is just earth-shattering. So this is why we have our topic today, testing, because testing is a very critical component. And we want you all to know, to rest assured that ONPASSIVE is doing the utmost it can to ensure that testing is done appropriately and properly. So that's the meat of this presentation, is for you all to have confidence in ONPASSIVE. Now I'd like to take it to our OTECH pros to say any final comments or discussion. Go ahead. Any one of you can do that as we wrap up. Let's start. Maybe we'll go ahead. I'll just select. Vincent, go ahead. Parting comments, Vincent.
No, maybe later. Yeah, I don't have any comment there. Collins, you can.
Collins, anything from you?
Yes, I just want to thank everyone who've attended, those who are watching online and those who are the attendee. That we'll just try to explain here is for us to build confidence on what ONPASSIVE is doing, just to explain on a very high level. So we didn't really go into the details, a very high level of what we imagine and understand that they are doing, because we are also in the field doing all of these things. So we just want to thank you for today. And as Ms. Ashwara said, this is not about certification, so you don't need to pass or fail. So there's no pass or fail here. If you don't get it, no problem. The system is automated and it's all done for you and it's properly tested and ready to roll. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oliver, any parting words?
Yeah, I just want to thank all our founders that are here to listen to us. Thank you. And I know and I believe that each of every one of you will go back home with at least with something to know about your business, your company, how your business function, and why is it taking that long? Because it goes through the testing phase, it goes through all these other phases with artificial intelligence embedded into it, 100% automation and integration. So all these, putting them together takes time, and that's why we are here today, to let you people know. And when it comes to also instill security, is to make sure that the CEO is so particular about the security, and to make sure that to prevent all the malicious attack from intruders to come into our system, and to make sure that before the system goes live, the security checks, the testing checks, everything has been checked, and we can roll it out. I want to say thank you and happy weekend.
Thank you. Tina Go from Singapore had asked if our ONPASSIVE system tests for data loss during migration, and are the checks done by engineers or AI and ML? Just a quick question from Tina. I know we're looking at it from the front end, but Vincent, you want to take that? Does ONPASSIVE?
Sorry, I didn't catch the beginning of the question. Sorry.
Does ONPASSIVE system test for data loss during migration? I think this would be an industry-wide question, not only for ONPASSIVE. So I think you would be able to answer it.
Oh yeah, if we have a data loss during the migration process, that's why we have a backup. So we use the backup to restore the data where it's lost, to restore the data, the lost data, or maybe the corrupt data, or the insecure data in the system, so that we use the backup to do that as well.
Thank you. I think that should answer Tina's question. Thank you for the question, Tina. Next, we have Bob Takusi.
All right. Well, thank you, Auntie Lynn. Thank you, Brother Madi. You know, when it comes to a system, the most critical aspect of the system before it rolls out is testing. And this is what will be, that's why we have this discussion today, just to emphasize the relevance and the importance why a system must be tested, and not only during the final phase, all throughout, as we've explained this morning. You know, it's all about testing. Yes, the system is designed, the requirements are put in place, the analysis are made, everything is done, the policy is there. Testing. We have to test so that when we roll out, I will just refer everybody to what Brother Madi said before you calling us back. The consequences of us not doing our due diligence in testing, all kinds of scenario. Collins will tell you, we document, we make all kinds of scenario, forward, backwards, automated, manual, all kinds. We do all kinds of testing so that when this product goes out, it is live, it is respected, it is loved, it is user friendly, it is, you know, it is seen, you know, everything is delivered to the customer as promised. If the customers come and the system fails, that gives serious reputational damage to the company. There's a chance that you will never get these customers back. So I want to assure our founders that we are doing, Mr. Mufara and the team in Hyderabad, they are doing their due diligence, they are doing everything possible to make sure when we roll this product out, that is it. Remember, we have just one, we have one shot in, we have one bullet in our chamber with this ONPASSIVE. And when we take that shot, we cannot miss it, you know. So bear with us, bear with ONPASSIVE, give us the time. Sometimes the tests, they find issues, right? When we find issues, we come back and they fix it. The regression, Collins told us. So when they find issues, especially in this last phase, we go back and regression test the entire system again. It takes time. So just bear with us. We know that we are at the last phase. So I want to thank all those who are our viewers who are listening to us, and tell you we love you. See you guys next week. Back to you, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Bob. Marty, do you have any final words for us? You're good?
No,
All right.
Very good, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for those great examples. All right, so I'd like to tell you all that OTECH Pros is a weekly webinar held every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So please come back and join us again. Our topics are guided and suggested by our own CEO, Ash Mufara. So we know that when we're covering topics, these are critical topics that will benefit you all. I also want to tell you that we have the ONPASSIVE Kenya webinar coming up at 12:30 in about 20 minutes. And we will have the same group here, the OTECH Pros, who will present the topic of testing. So feel free to join us there in a few minutes. It'll be reinforcement. If this is new information for you, hearing it a second time is actually really good. You'll hear it and learn more the second time through, as everyone does. So thank you again for being here, and we will see you next Saturday at this time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you for your patronage and support. We love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.